M2M as a technological innovation has come a long way since its early days of inception in the World War II era. From helping fighter pilots identify friendly and enemy targets to modern-day satellite remote sensing, M2M has finally arrived in a manner which declares it is here to stay. This projected growth in M2M will be determined by the customer experience and how market players ensure that offered solutions add palpable value to businesses and consumers' development. On this note, we would like to introduce the topic for the first panel discussion of the day, Fulfilling the M2M Promise, the transition from incubation to maturity.
To control the ebb and flow of the dialogue, I would like to call on the chairperson for the panel discussion, Dr. Ramanujan Kashi, Senior Research Scientist, Multimedia Technologies Research, Avaya. At Avaya, Sir and his team contribute to research in document image processing, user authentication, collaboration and e-learning, streaming video, self-service systems, and the use of these technologies in Avaya's CRM and VoIP offers. Sir obtained his bachelor's degree from Mysore University and master's and doctoral degrees from Rutgers University, New Jersey, USA. Soon after, he joined AT&T Bell Laboratories at Murray Hills in 1994 as member of technical staff. Later, he moved on to Lucent Bell Labs in 1996 and to Avaya Labs Research in 2000. In 2004, he relocated to India to start a research group in multimedia at the company's wholly owned subsidiary called Avaya India Private Limited. Sir has over 40 publications and 10 patents to his credit. We welcome you, sir, to Communicate Well.
I now like to take this opportunity to invite our next esteemed panelist, Mr. Vijay Anand, Distinguished Technologist and Global Chief Technology Officer, Logica. Sir has over 15 years of professional experience handling both technical and business-oriented initiatives in the M2M space. Currently, he's the CTO for M2M and evangelist for innovation in Logica, now part of CGI. So, SITM welcomes you to Communicate Well.
Now, I would like to call upon our next panelist, Mr. Umesh Neelakantan, Program Director, Mindtree. Sir heads the Consumer Systems and M2M domain at Mindtree Limited and has over 16 years of experience in the consumer and communications industry. He has been instrumental in defining the M2M strategy and offerings of Mindtree and is working with various customers and partners in this area. Sir is also the co-inventor of a US patent in the wireless communication space and the co-author of several papers in international forums. His views on the M2M market have been featured in various articles and journals such as M2M Now. Sir holds a master's degree in telecommunication networks from IIT Kanpur and a bachelor's degree in electronics from REC Calicut. We welcome you, sir, to SITM.
Our next distinguished panelist is Mr. Umar Ali, Director, Telecom, Media and Entertainment, Atos India. Sir has been associated with leading global IT and telecom organizations in the past in leadership positions. Prior to Atos, he was leading the IT solutions and document management services for Xerox India Limited. Apart from this, he has held various leadership positions in organizations like TataNet, Bharti Airtel, Telstra Vcom, and Alcatel. Sir has been an active member of the business development team for I2I undersea cable of Airtel, the first undersea cable from eastern coast of India. He was also instrumental in building the services business for Xerox in India for some of the key business verticals such as insurance and telecom, apart from others. Sir is a management graduate from the Regional College of Management, Bhubaneswar. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communicate Well.
Now, I would like to call upon the panel Mr. Narendra Saini, Chief Executive Officer, Sucrut Systems. Sir is founding member of Sukrut Systems. In the short span of time, Sukrut has made it to the top 50 innovative technologies by DST FICCI, DFID Sankalp, and Red Herring Asia 100 winners for 2011. An M2M domain expert, Mr. Saini is a qualified professional with more than 14 years of progressive experience in telecom, DSP, multimedia, and M2M technology. He has first-hand experience in offering innovative business applications in various aspects of M2M technology. Sir is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and Roorkee and holds dual masters in physics and instrumentation technology. We welcome you, sir, to SITM.
Our next distinguished panelist is retired Commodore Shyam Kaushal, Regional Director, South Asia WiMAX Forum. Sir has 35 years of distinguished service in the Indian Navy, Ministry of Defense, Government of India. During his career, he has held prestigious appointments at all levels. Notable amongst these were Command of Ships, Shore Establishment, and Command Communication Center. He was Command Operations and Plans Officer and Director of Naval Projects, Naval Signals, Signal Intelligence, and Joint Communications and Electronics Staff. He was a member of the Indian delegation to the World Radio Conference 2000 and 2003, and a member of the Government of India's Standing Advisory Committee on Frequency Allocations. Post-retirement, he has worked with Motorola and Siemens and helped them with their regulatory and government relations issues. Since January 2007, he has held the post of Regional Director India for the WiMAX Forum. He interacts regularly with DOT, TRI, and other government agencies in the ecosystem to give the inputs and resolve regulatory and other issues. He has a master's degree in defense studies and is a fellow of the Institute of Electronics and Telecommunications Engineers. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communicate Well.
Our next esteemed panelist is Mr. Patrick Matthias, Vice President, Cisco. Sir is a senior management executive with over 22 years of experience in global multinational companies covering varied functions of sales, channels, marketing, large account management, solutions consulting, and technical lead functions. He is also on the Technology Advisory Board and a regular guest speaker of management institutes, including Symbiosis, MIT Pune, and Wellinkar, Mumbai. In his current position in Cisco, Sir has managed multiple roles catering to large enterprise accounts in industry verticals varying from banking and finance, manufacturing, and retail. Prior to this, Sir was at Intel, where he was responsible for sales and sales marketing for Intel processors and platform businesses after heading the sales, channels, and marketing functions for communication business in South Asia. Sir has previously also worked with Siemens Nixford, Wipro, and HCL. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communicate Well.
Our next esteemed panelist is Mr. Abraham Joseph, CEO, M2M Insights, and CEO, Device Management Forum. We're proud to have you amongst us on the second day of Communicate Well, sir. Thank you, and we welcome you again on the second day. I would request the chairperson Dr. Ramanujan Kashi, to initiate the discussion.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of the panel, the distinguished panel, I would thank the SITM management for inviting us. I think this is a great area to discuss on. It's a pity that we just have 40 minutes. Maybe 40 hours wouldn't be enough for this. We had a wonderful keynote from Mr. Mohammed Chowdhury today too. Really enjoyed. In fact, there's a lot of, yesterday and in the morning today, we've had significant discussions and many of them sort of touching on this aspect of machine to machine. So it's obviously not so new, and the discussion today is going to be on fulfilling the M2M promise. Are we there yet? Transition from incubation to maturity, right? So there's obviously a lot of drivers we have had in the past couple of years, from intelligent device, smart endpoints, infinite bandwidth. It almost appears to be infinite these days, right, with the LTE 4G. You have social applications sort of going back and saying, I can do a lot of stuff with the social media, with things like Facebook, right? So because you have all these different aspects of technologies coming together, I see that M2M is from where it was to where it is right now, has had a significantly, a significant ride, and promises again to have a significant ride going forward, right? But I think one of the things, since it's a really big topic to go over, I thought we would sort of spend some time, going over what are the, what's been the ride in India, right? Are we still at the incubation stage? Are we, do we claim that we have had successful, substantial installations of M2M where we see productivity and people are embracing it? I think that's sort of what we would want to focus today. And we have our elite panel here who've had significant, areas of experience. Before we do that, yesterday we had a wonderful talk from Abraham Joseph on M2M. And I was sort of, I looked at the slide yesterday and I said, man, he's covered pretty much everything that the panel has to cover. So, what are we going to be talking about in this panel? And then, so I asked for the slide to see if I could get some spaces that he hadn't covered. And, fortunately for me, the Indian angle was not covered. So before we sort of launch into the Indian angle, I'd request Abraham to spend a couple of minutes sort of setting up the stage as to, from where he sees, where is M2M from a worldwide and specifically from a European perspective. Sure, please, you can just stay.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this, if you like, second opportunity. Obviously, I didn't do too badly yesterday, I guess. So I've been on the circuit for a while looking at issues relating to management of devices, and more recently, a lot of events relating to M2M and Internet of Things. I suppose the main points I tried to cover yesterday were as follows. M2M, Internet of Things, smart cities, smart everything. It's very easy to get caught up in the definitions where M2M begins and where IoT, where M2M ends, IoT begins, and so on. But the key thing is that we are looking at a set of factors that converge to mean significant opportunities. So on the one hand, you have the price of components being very, very low, so it becomes viable to embed all kinds of things that we would not have thought of embedding before. So there are a number of drivers like that on the supply side. Also on the supply side, a business process, business model innovation, the ways in which you can now construct business propositions that were not possible before, and I'm thinking here of cloud services and various things like that. And these are happening at a time when there is incredible pressure, for example, on government spending in healthcare and so on. So what you have is a massive opportunity created by a set of supply factors converging on a set of demand factors. But nevertheless, there are challenges, challenges in areas of standardization, challenges in areas of business models. And we may just have to get used to the idea that instead of a nice, simple, clear-cut business models, what we may be looking at are, if you like, a long tail of potential applications and innovation as opposed to killer applications. So those are some of the points that I attempted to convey yesterday. In terms of markets, the other point that came up towards the end of yesterday was that some markets, for example, consumer electronics, are probably more international in characteristics. And then there are other types of markets which maybe depend on local laws, on government initiatives that maybe would different instances in each market, in each country. Healthcare may be an example of that. So in terms of assessing the opportunity space and the challenge space, we need to be mindful of the characteristics of these markets for these kinds of factors. And one can see that in Europe, for example, there are some initiatives around smart metering and so on, and therefore the investments and some of the initiatives are following that. In other markets like the US, there have been lots of precedents on logistics, transportation, and so on. Interestingly, I've supported events in Indonesia, and we've had 2 events in China so far. And one of the points I made yesterday is that because government involvement may be required in some instances, competitive advantages may well be gained by maybe governments that invest and favor the long term in terms of the strategic thinking on some of these technologies. So I think this is probably as good a scene setting as we can have at this stage, but I'm happy to chip in later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Abraham. So, and also I'd like to encourage, I'd really like to encourage audience participation. If there's something, you guys have, if there's a question right there, feel free to, raise your hands. It may be appropriate to do it rather than, waiting for all of us to end, because it's a discussion, and you may have some the points you want to be addressed immediately. So I'm just sort of going to go by the list here. Mr. Vijay Anand, would you like to, comment? Specifically, I think as we said,
Hello.
We're sort of keeping it a little bit of a focus from, where we see from an India perspective.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ramanujam. I want to thank Professor Patil for bringing me back here. Incubation, maturity. I think both of these terms are quite relative. Let me set a stage out here. When I say it's relative, there are quite a number of dynamics which are going to define what we call as maturity and what we call as incubation, specifically in this growing area of machine to machine. I'll take some simple examples, probably try to relate to that. All of you have heard of solutions like TomTom, which has been flying in the Western world. Now, if I say TomTom is a matured solution for the Western world, can I use the same mature terminology for TomTom in India? No, I can't do that, because it's not a mature solution for the Indian business, Indian challenges. At the same time, if I said TomTom was an incubation kind of a solution for India, yeah, it's a solution probably in incubation. Probably in the next 2-3 years, we'll see real business challenges which will make TomTom a reality and something which people would need in India. As business leaders, as the next generation business leaders, I think it's all our responsibilities to identify what are those business challenges that we as a country are facing today, the organizations today are facing today, and try to come out with solutions which could be a mature solution for the market today, and in parallel also kind of think forward and say these are the kind of challenges that we might face in the coming years, and then start creating solutions which we keep in incubation for today. So that's the kind of thought model that we need to have when we start discussing maturity and incubation in the M2M space, which is still to mature. It's in a very nascent stage. Now, I just want to relate to all of this using examples. So today's world, I'll take some sample M2M applications. If I go to the villages today, we have this the challenge in terms of getting power, all the three-phase power as we call it, for our water pumps in the field to work. Now I need to find some solution today, a M2M solution which is going to enable me to switch on those pumps when our government gives electricity to these farmers at 2 o'clock in the night. You can't practically expect a farmer to be going into the field at 2 o'clock in the night to switch on his pump for watering his fields. Now that's a mature solution for me today. If I can come up with a solution, an M2M solution, which enables these farmers in the right kind of ecosystem, in the right kind of price point, to come up with a solution which enables these farmers to be watering their fields at 2 o'clock in the night from the house that they are in, then that's a mature solution for me today. Now if it's about a track and trace solution which is going to take me across the city Yes, it might be required in a city, but it's not a mature solution. It's probably a incubation solution with all the traffic and other situations coming in. So that's a typical example. Another very interesting discussion that I was having with some of our friends in Afghanistan. Now, there are quite a number of pay-as-you-go insurance discussions which are happening in the geography, Indian geography too. It's something which started off in the West, which matured in the West, came to India. Now, quite a number of Indian insurers are talking about pay-as-you-go insurance. Excellent. It's a developing country, so it's something which has started to mature in the Indian market. But now if I take this as a solution to, say, Afghanistan, where 99.99% of the vehicles don't have insurance. There's no insurance company which is willing to give insurance to a vehicle in Afghanistan. Is that a solution for that? No, it's not a mature solution. So we're talking about something which is going to be there in incubation, and probably down the line, when situations improve, we're talking about a mature solution for Afghanistan in pay-as-you-go insurance. So the point that I want to kind of arrive at is these are relative terms. When we talk about incubation, we talk about maturity. These are relative terms. We need to associate an aspect of a business challenge. What is the need of the industry? What is the need of the market? And then on a case-by-case basis decide, are we in the incubation kind of a space, or are we in a maturity kind of a space? And at the same time, just to use one of the other words that we had about promise. Now, promise is something which can't come from one individual. It's not one industry segment which is going to provide a promise. When we talk about promise in the M2M space, we are talking about a collaborative area. There are going to be quite a number of stakeholders who have to come together to deliver M2M business. There are going to be telcos, there are going to be service providers, there are going to be the guys who are going to be there in the field who have to manage all these devices. There's a whole lot of different entities, stakeholders who need to come together if we start talking delivery of a M2M service, right? So it's when we talk about promise, we'll have to grow in the collaborative space, in the collaborative innovation space, and have the right kind of promises from all the stakeholders involved in terms of making M2M a success, be it in India, be it outside India. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Vijayan. When you talk about M2M, you can't sort of separate device management. So I request Mr. Umesh Neelkantan to enlighten us, has his thoughts about where he sees the M2M in India and about the device management.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Kashi. Actually, I'll just probably give whatever I have learned or understood about how things are going and what's happening in India and so on in the M2M space rather. See, when you compare with how M2M is happening outside India in the Western world, and compare and look at the key verticals which are driving the segment. One, of course, is the energy segment. Then we have the telematics part of it. Then we have healthcare. I mean, remote healthcare. A few such things are there, and then navigation. So a few 4 or 5 key segments we can talk about where really M2M is being applied in its entirety. Now compare that to today's India's scenario. I feel that none of them are the key core areas which India itself wants at the stage, which we ourselves are thinking about. Yes, for energy we have the RAP, DRP kind of stuff happening. But if you look at the number of real installations, everywhere it is pilots happening, including in my own city of Bangalore. So I think we are still pretty far away from the whole scenario when you talk about real M2M from the operator side. So, but now you compare with the other part of M2M which we talk about, that is from the enterprise side. I think that is where probably the first real push is going to happen in India. Already it is, because I have a device, iPad or whatever it is. I don't want it to be a separate entity sitting at my home. I want to take it to my office. I want to get it connected. It should be as smooth as possible as it comes to when I use that device. I don't want multiple devices. And I think looking at the way our whole IT industry is growing, probably that according to me is an immediate real opportunity which can happen in India. That is why all the big names in the device management space, all these folks are setting up shop in India, mainly to target these kind of segments. The core M2M which we talk about, let it be in the navigation, fleet management, all these things, in my opinion, that's going to take a little more time, even though you may have 4G installations, all these things happening, because many of them don't need that kind of a bandwidth also. Many of them can be done with the pure play. For example, today we are, my company is talking to one of the largest truck manufacturers. They want to just build a solution which will, be a kind of new school bus concept, where the school bus, you can track the children coming in. Each child will be given a kind of QR code or something. You can just you can swipe when or you can use a mobile phone to actually scan the QR code and then get in. And then the bus can be tracked, and the bus, ECU is connected via the GPS back to the server. So that's the kind of solution which we are now talking specifically for Indian markets. And I feel those kind of things which really touches our lives is what is going to really create a mass movement, not the things like, see, for example, in India, you don't need a navigator really to find where to go. You have people around, you can just stop somewhere and then keep asking people and then keep moving. Right. But that's not the case in US. You go to and start driving, there's nobody you can see on the highways, right? There is no way you can get out of without having a navigator. So the scenarios are totally different. I think the push is going to be different. Probably the smart grid initiatives, when it comes up, that is going to see, we are going to really see some kind of smart metering and such things at our homes, and that's when we feel the reality of M2M. Or the other possibility could be the Aadhaar. All of you are aware of Aadhaar things, right? So today we are still in the enrollment process. We still haven't started using Aadhaar. All of us enrolled and we got some number, we don't know what to do with it. So once the devices come up and then these kind of micro ATMs, all this stuff come up across the, all the nook and corner of India, I think that's when we really, as Indians, we will start seeing the value of M2M. That's when we are going to really, appreciate it. And till that happens, I think enterprise side is going to really drive the market. So that's my view on the whole segment.
Thank you, Mr. Neelakantan. Just sort of continuing the enterprise theme, because clearly I think there's, again, in my mind, it's probably going to be the enterprise. It's probably a little easier. The barriers to to implementing M2M in an enterprise may be a little easier than doing it in the consumer market, because they perceive an ROI. I request Mr. Patrick Matthias to, he's got significant expertise from an enterprise perspective to highlight us, enlighten us on the enterprise side of things too.
Thank you. And with your permission, can I stir up the audience a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Good morning. Good morning. So, all of you think we are experts, right? We are not. It's easy to give forecasts for 30 years because in the next 30 years, very few of us will exist. The past experience was to make so many forecasts that one of them would have come true and we would have publicized one of them. So we would have been right. The reality on ground is that I think you guys sitting there know a lot much more than us in terms of what will be successful. Because you are the users of the technology. I get to learn more in my home from my 7-year-old and 13-year-old daughter than I get to learn reading textbooks. And that is specific about automation, machine-to-machine interface, new user experiences, new interfaces, so on and so forth. Touching upon user interface and experience, I think it's experience that is going to drive enterprises, consumers, governments, and the overall population at large. There was a time when technology was designed first in defense. And since we have a gentleman from defense services, I thought I'll touch upon this. Most of the innovative technologies got created in the defense labs. And they got adopted in defense, then in government, then in large corporates and enterprises, and then trickled down to the consumer. There is a paradigm shift that has happened in the last 10 years. Technologies are first being made for consumers. They are getting adopted in a mass way. Suddenly defense is realizing that what they spent $100,000 on is available for $5,000. And the same iPhone or iPad can double up as a communication device on field for the soldier in a much more efficient manner. Now this paradigm shift one must keep into account or must think when one thinks about machine-to-machine interface. Because the important thing about mass adoption is value, cost effectiveness, experience, and mass adoption. Mass adoption will happen only if there is compelling user value, there is compelling experience, and there is a compelling price point. Going back to one of the examples you gave, why navigation is not used. Yes, there's a better need in US, but if I get a navigation system in India at rupees 2,000, paying 200 rupees per month at service charge, I will go for it. So that's the market perspective. Coming back to enterprise, it's an amazing experience that I had, and I'm a storyteller, I'm a business storyteller. So I think that reciting stories connects with the audience is better. I was in a meeting where, I'll not name the company, but it's one of the largest media companies worldwide. And of course I'd gone to sell a technology. And I had a meeting with the CIO, the worldwide CIO of that organization, who had come down to India because the Indian arm was acquiring a lot of companies and they wanted to standardize the technologies. And when I started positioning some new technologies, whether it is on the bring your own device concept, where most of the M2M interface happens in enterprises, or whether it was on virtualization, the standard response was, this is not as per our global policy. How many of you have heard this statement before? This is not as per policy. Have you heard this statement, this is not as per policy? Yes, all of you? Who has not heard about it, raise your hand. Anyone has not heard about this statement, this is not as per policy or as per rules? I'm sure 2 years in this management institute, rules would have been thrown at your face, day in and day out. Is that right? Okay. Now let's get to know how to break the rules. You all love breaking rules? It took me quite a while to figure out how to break corporate rules. They are more stringent. In reality, they are not. The only way to break corporate rules, there are 2 or 3 ways of doing that. One of them is to show the CEO where is the money. Second is to show the CEO where is the experience and how his job can be made simpler. And third is to show the CEO what to do with it. So in a nutshell, in an enterprise, if you show the CEO that there is a better experience sitting on the throne in the loo, that will get done. So machine-to-machine interface in enterprise, the success of it is based on the fact that can it impact the top line or the bottom line of the organization. It's as simple as that. And this global CIO was throwing all policies on my face, and there was the CEO of the India arm sitting in that room. After a couple of minutes, I just looked at the CIO and I told, you are in the media business. You have a bunch of people called creative people. Creative people are very fascinated with machine-to-machine interface, and they like user experience. Do you think you'll be able to retain your current creative directors and the employees? Do you think you'll be able to hire new creative people if you do not adopt the new technologies around machine-to-machine interface and the user experience that it delivers, do you think the marketing heads who are your customers, when you engage with them, will be extremely pleased if you still use a 20-year-old technology to demonstrate to them what value and services you have to offer? There was silence in the room. The global CIO thought he had enough, and he said that, well, gentlemen, thank you for meeting me. And he got up. And that signaled supposedly the end of the meeting. The CEO of that company told me, please sit down. And once the CIO was out, he told me, come to my cabin. That was an unsolicited meeting on my part. It went on for 2.5 hours. And all that the CEO was interested in knowing was what impact can this technology bring to the business? And in the next 3 to 5 years, how is it that will help him to grow his organization, impact his top line, impact his bottom line? As simple as that. Well, there were answers. Now that led to an overnight creation of a $5 million opportunity, which was not in the pipeline. It was an incremental opportunity that was not forecasted at all. So, importantly, what's happening is that as we speak from incubation to maturity, one must understand that the overall cycles are collapsing rapidly. I mean, some of the examples are automotives, okay? Non-related example, but the cycle time from incubation to maturity was probably around 10 years, around a decade ago. But now they have collapsed to 2 years. Similarly, in technology, that incubation to maturity cycle is collapsing rapidly. And in that cycle, one must be aware as to where are you entering into the cycle and for what purpose. If you are in research, you need to be right at the beginning. If you are on business, you should try to understand the hype cycle and not latch on to the wrong one. But if that technology is rejected, then you have bet on the wrong horse. Early adoption probably is the best time for business heads to look at any technology. Adoption is the time when most of the sales people and the general management people step into the technology. Commoditization is when all the wannabes enter in it and there is no profit available. So that's the business perspective that I wanted to provide and give a complete roundup from technology to business.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you. So let's, Patrick did mention, quite a few areas from consumer, into enterprise, and we all know that M2M in many ways started, more from a, as he rightly points out, from a defense perspective too. So, Mr. Shyam Kaushal, I'd like you to take it up from here. I mean, you have, you have a lot of background being in the defense. Plus, you've sort of, you're currently, working on the WiMAX forum, and clearly one of the, accelerators for M2M is WiMAX and LTE. So, Mr. Kaushal.
Thank you. First of all, I must thank Professor Sunil and the SITM for having called me to this excellent event, which always impresses me whenever I come here in the professional manner that it is conducted and executed. So I congratulate you all on this excellent event, and I'm very happy and honored to be a part of it. And now coming to what I've been invited to speak upon, of course I'm from the defense background, and having retired some years ago, it now seems a part of my last life, but I do remember that we were using these machine-to-machine devices way back, because one of the most difficult things when we were out at sea was to identify on the radar which is the friendly ship or aircraft, because when we were at a hostile situation or a near a hostile situation, we didn't want to shoot down our own buddies or our own forces. So we had this device which was called IFF, or interrogator friend of foe. We used to send a signal, and there used to be a code for that particular day. And if you got that code back, it showed you on your radar that straight away this is a friendly ship or this is not a friendly ship. And you could also add onto it to tell what type of ship or which country that ship belonged. So those were the type of devices we were using way back in the 60s. Now coming on to the modern times, he's right. WiMAX has made big strides in the field of M2M devices. In 2-3 fields I will just talk about. Firstly, it has made a great deal of impact and is currently being commercially used in smart grid. What does the smart grid do? It has a device fitted on the meter in your home, and the control rooms are able to monitor the consumption as well as bill you on an instant to instant. So now nobody has to come to your home to take a reading, and plus nobody can misuse electricity. Plus, at the same time, the control room is able to understand where and how much electricity is being used, and give that much electricity there and reduce it from the area where electricity is not that much being used. So you don't have the kind of situations of grid collapse that we recently experienced in the north, when all of us were without electricity for over a 12-hour period. These kind of situations can be controlled. Now, in India, there is immense potential for devices both on the enterprise level as well as on the individual level. On the enterprise level, the government is the one which will have to now take some step forward, because in any technology, in any device, nobody comes on it for the love of that device or technology. They come into it to make some money. And to make money, the government has to make a climate in which these devices are going to get at a stage where they're going to be affordable. And the operators should be in such a position so that if they implement these systems after charging the consumer and making some money, they should be able to have a profit in whatever they do. Otherwise, why on earth should any operator, say, give you a device which measures your electricity? If it's going to increase your electricity bill by a large amount, it should have increased efficiency in the system to possibly reduce your electricity bill, because they're going to save money on the cost of the guy who's going to do the readings, then produce those bills, give those bills to you, you pay the bills. All this becomes automatic, and you're able to pay your bills online. So in that extent, WiMAX has been very successful in the smart grid aspect. It has also made inroads into the oil and gas fields, where it does a lot in monitoring, surveillance, and security. It is doing a lot of things, and WiMAX is in fact holding now live events on these very subjects all over the world globally, and I am sure they will come into India as well. The other potential that I see in India is now, like, piped gas is becoming quite common all over, like even in our homes. I live in Noida, and when I used to live in Delhi, when I was in the Defense Forces, I used to live in Bapanagar, which is a relatively more modern area, and we did have piped gas even in 98, 99. But now it's coming into Noida, where I'm living, and there again you have meters. So now this will help, supposing you have devices on these meters which will measure your gas consumption and give it back to the gas company, so your bills are immediately known. Not only that, if, like people do in certain homes, they start running industries from their home, and suddenly a very high consumption of gas is going on, you are able to monitor this and know it on a real-time basis, rather than just allow this kind of misuse to go on. And third potential where I see a lot is, we, even in the Navy, we used to have devices on our buoys, which, the buoys need to flash at night to show you certain channels or show you certain locations of things. So they would automatically go off in the day, but they would sense the darkness and switch themselves on. We need to do such a thing for our street lights, because if you see in any city, maybe even Pune, I see it in Delhi and Noida a lot, you find a whole lot of times in the daylight, you find the street lamps are, continuously on and unnecessarily wasting electricity, which ultimately somehow or the other comes back to you. If you simply fitted these devices which sense the darkness and switch themselves on, and after a certain threshold of light they switch themselves off, the government will be able to save money. But they have to come forward to push these devices, spend some money, and make the life of the common man better. It's not that there are not going to be devices which are not useful in homes, because in India, I see that definitely what will lead the thing is the smart homes and financial and retail applications, and particularly monitoring. Like now we send our children to creches. You leave them in the creches, but with the devices you can actually see the child in the creche at the home, and the mother can monitor it from her work or wherever. So this is another useful device which could possibly sell. There was the case of these LBS's devices in Japan, which were very popular. They fitted them on the school bags of children, and now the mothers and the parents could track the child and ascertain its location. Somehow this device was not found very favorable, and they said, we'll put this in the husband's cell phone, so we'll be able to track him as well. That is, of course, on the latter side. And I think with this small thing, I'll end my
Thank you.
intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaushal. So, again, you sort of exposed to a lot of application scenarios. I request now Mr. Umar Ali, who's got significant experience in telecom, media, entertainment, to enlighten us about what he sees from M2M in probably more from an India perspective.
It's always a pleasure to come back. Professor, thank you very much. It's been quite a regular visit for me in the Institute for last couple of quarters. And it's always good to try and enter the campus from the way the road leads. I hope it stays that way. But I'm seeing some of the buildings coming far away. So I just hope that these roads don't get polluted with a lot of buildings around. So thank you very much for having me here again. It's a great pleasure. I will concur with him saying that is there any technology which got invented and not used to make money? I'm still, wondering, barring probably some of the projects which are done for the fancy, but any technology which we either invent or improvise, it has to make money. And I agree with my colleagues here on the dais. Now, incubation and maturity, it's a very nice way of putting it across. I say it's a continuous process. In a very mature environment, we are still incubating. And, in an incubation scenario, there are certain things which are already mature. Vijay said it's kind of a continuous process. If we go to any CEO or a CIO and we tell them that we are here to make you spend, will they entertain you? Answer is no. If you go and say that, we used to call commercial proposal when we used to submit, and we now call it investment proposal. So it's a different way of looking at it. Now, what is our view of M2M? It's kind of become a buzzword, M2M, like .com or something like that. But it's like, in one of those old Hollywood movies, Jerry Maguire, and he says in one of the dialogues saying, show me the money. And I had a session before in this institute a couple of months back. So, is M2M showing the money? Will it show the money? Would it continue to show the money? Would it, at the maturity stage of technology, will have some more incubation to do, which will show them the money? That is the buzzword, and if that is fitting into the scenario, then it will work. Commodore Sham has put it very nicely, and our interaction from the IT services perspective with the large enterprise customers, whether it be telecom or be it media, has been that there are two schools of thought. One school of thought which is in the scenario of fascination of, oh yeah, we really want to know M2M. There is another school of thought which are in deep pain of saying that how do I try and show money from M2M. In my opinion, whether M2M will succeed in India or not has got some fundamental relations to our country or our consumers. A is that, are we ready to adopt technology? Are we really thinking that we would be able to adopt technology as we move forward? I think yes. There is always an advantage of coming late. Pager came late in India, and when somebody from US came and tried to page one message, he only gave the number. And the operator said, "What is your message, sir?" And he said, "No, this is the number." No, what is your message? Are you trying to tell him, "Hi, good morning," or "I love you," or "I hate you"? He said, "Oh, can you do that in India?" So there's an advantage of coming late, and we have that advantage of being little late. So our adaptability is a lot higher. That is one. Number two, Commodore Sham said just now, and also other colleagues said, government has to take a lot of initiative. M2M will not succeed unless there is a mass acceptance. And to do mass acceptance, we have to get into solutions which has got mass application or mass implementation capability. If you guys have ever gone to apply for a driving license, you sit in a class for applying for a learning license. The common way of yesterday's way of doing it is you are given some questions, you fill those questions and you submit your form, somebody manually would correct, and then you would come to know next day or day after or 5 days whether you qualified on the theory session, and then you would know whether you will get learner's license or not. Today, in at least one RTO I know, where you go and you have a device and there is a question which comes on the board, you just press yes, no, and your seat number is aligned to that, and instead of you being a human being named XYZ, your seat number says whether you have qualified for the exam or not. Why I am taking this example? I am pleased to see the way government organizations are adapting to technology. If they are convinced, then there will be a policy which will be made. We do not stop at red light unless we know we will be fined. We do not stop at red signal unless we know that a policeman will catch us and stop us from going. If there is a way that nothing will happen in stopping at a red signal, we won't. And I think government plays a very large role in telling that, please, if you don't do this, okay, you would be penalized for this. In my opinion, from business perspective, all the telcos or media organizations, while there is a great amount of sensitivity to try and create a wow factor of M2M, but the bottom line is how they can make money. And the larger part of that, is there somebody on the top of them saying, unless you do it, okay, you won't be able to move forward, and you won't be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, that will directly relate that you won't be able to make money. So in my opinion, M2M is just about to catch up. In my opinion, with interaction with the CEOs and CIOs, there is an inherent urge and great amount of desperation to make sure that we adopt this mass market technology so that we increase our revenue and we see some money. Are we in a mature state on the overall generic scenario? No, we are not. Will we reach to mature stage, or will this M2M will fade away in 2 years' time to something else? I don't think so. I think This is the future. This is the tomorrow. India as a country is mature to adopt technology. Our overall average IQ is a lot higher. We use our brain more than calculator. So we will adopt faster this technology to make sure that we make this M2M a success. That is what I feel.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. So let me now turn the spotlight to Mr. Narendra Saini, CEO of Sukrit Systems, to enlighten us on his views of M2M.
Hello. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope everybody is awake. Good. So thanks to the organization committee that they have invited me over here. And speaking towards the end gives an opportunity to actually collate from the previous speakers. So I'll just speak about three major points, where one is about the market readiness, about the machine-to-machine communication, about the verticals, which are specific to India, I would right now talk about, and third and very important thing about the policies, the government policies. So talking about the market readiness, I think enterprise segment is, as of today, showing more interest into the machine-to-machine communication and the related services than the operators. If you really look at operators, they have gone into e-commerce. I think some of you might be using MoneyPay or something, some services like that. So that's the service that operators have got into. And if you look at the operator point of view, when it comes to the machine-to-machine communication portals or a platform to build the services in India, it does not exist as of today. So there is the market, what operators see and what we see, or probably what enterprise see, we look at it from a different angle, and from the operator's point of view, the market in India as of now is not ready. Then where it is? The enterprise segment over there, if you look at financial inclusion, is one of the technology, and I think you're going to have one more panel discussion on financial inclusion and mobile finance. That's one thing, driving factor. Then the vehicle tracking, or I would say vehicle telematics in that space, is second driving factor in India. The third one which is coming up is, which we have seen recently in Delhi, that smart grid implementation, which is done by Tata and Reliance, BSES and NDPL, where they have done a significant reduction in ATC losses from 45% to barely 18%. That means they have not produced extra electricity, but they have made that 24% extra electricity available to the masses. So that's where the strength of machine-to-machine communication comes in. When I say about the market readiness, I can talk about one of the prospective clients. I spoke to him last year. When I told him that we can build such a solution, which would probably cost almost 25,000 or something, he said, wow, that's good. And he looked at the features, qualities and everything. He said, wow, it matches some of the best solutions available in US. And then he started looking at the commercials. He said, oh, we pay 10,000 per month for one particular unit to be maintained. I said, everything will be automated. That's awesome that you have an ROI of 2.5 months. Then they started discussing among themselves. They said, okay, one of the person can take care of 3 stations. I said, still, it's not a problem. You still have 7.5 months ROI. Then they got into more and more calculations. They said, okay, we can probably increase this person to 4 stations or 5 stations and take care of things that way. Still, the problem is that they were not ready to accept that what machines or this unit sitting over there and their stations can take care of it. It's been a year. They are still contemplating. They're still thinking whether to go for it or not. So, and it's a $1 billion group. I must say it's more than $1 billion, their revenue. And they have presence in 70 different countries. But they are not ready to go to that extra step forward to adopt this technology. At the same time, Well, I talk about some early adopters. If you look at the hype cycle, I think most of you are aware of. I think most of the management students go through hype cycle studies, right? So if you look at the hype cycle, which is definitely elongated when it comes to Indian context, then some of the early adopters like logistic companies, they have thrown out some of their existing system which they were using for 3-4 years, because at that time, the people who were providing the services, they thought of this as a capex business, where the most of the is the capital investment is required, and that's all. The services they did not really bother at that time, but it is actually not true. Machine-to-machine communication, if you come to this, then it's basically a long-term service business. If you don't deliver the quality of service, you will be out of the business. I have seen at least 50 enterprises closing down in last 3 years of mine while we started Sucre system. And all because they were not able to sustain the quality of service that they promised to their clients. So one of the very, very important aspect that I would want to bring over here is that M2M business is a service business. Quality of service is very, very important. But given the Indian market, we have price sensitive and quality sensitive, two different class of customers. Quality sensitive are definitely far less than the price sensitive ones. And that's where the challenge is there for M2M service providers in India. So what we have to look at, what Indian market is doing is basically we need to look at the change management from the perspective that we had probably 5 years ago to what we have today. That change management we have to look at, the cost and the investment strategies for all these enterprises and the operators. So that's what are the going to be the key drivers, how we grow towards the maturity in Indian market. Second is about the verticals, as I told you, the financial inclusion, the smart grid. Most of them are, except financial inclusion and vehicle telematics, most of them are still at the pilot stage. Smart grid is, there is one project in West Bengal. I think there are small projects in Bangalore and probably one project in Maharashtra. I think one small project in Andhra Pradesh, and of course Delhi has adopted it. Other than that, everywhere it is at a very small scale. Even when the policy initiative was taken almost a decade back. APDRP that was announced in 2002, 2003 and 2004, that period, and then the revised APDRP which was announced in around 2008 or so, have distributed the entire electricity business into 3 different segments, where the production of the energy, the transmission of the energy and the distribution of energy were segmented. The distribution segment is still to take the next step to actually adopt the M2M communication to a large scale. We are still at the very small scale over there. Some of the verticals are highly fragmented, such as vehicle telematics. There are more than 850 companies in India. I don't know how many of you know that. 850 companies in India providing vehicle tracking solution. Not even 10% deliver the quality of service. Out of those 850, barely 5% are actually the manufacturer. So the market is highly fragmented because people did see money and the small scale business over there and they jumped into this. But it's highly unstructured, and because of lack of standardization, every person has a different set of reports, different way of providing the service to the customer, and of course, many of them have failed. And because of that, you might have not heard many companies being successful in this particular segment in India. Now there is other part of it. Segments such as, we have started one initiative in the female feticide segment a couple of years back, and what we have done is we have augmented machine-to-machine capabilities in those devices so that we can get daily reports right from the field. It's an augmentation of the capability, M2M capability. That is a different market, that is very huge market, even if comes to the electricity domain or comes to the water treatment plant, chemical factories or cement factories or wherever it is. There's a pretty huge market over there. It's just that we need to build up the business model. So the business model and the right kind of a vertical are the second challenge that I see, moving from the incubation to the maturity. And the third aspect, as I told, the policy. The policy initiatives such as APDRP and revised APDRP by the Government of India have actually fueled the growth of such pilots in India. But at the same time, how many of you know that it is because of the policy and the control over 3G spectrum that India has delayed the 3G rollout in here? I think we were behind the rest of the world by at least 3 to 4 years. We had all the technical capabilities just because we didn't have the right kind of a policy available, and the spectrum was not available for the use of 3G. Things were delayed. At the same time, there is I don't know how many of you are aware of the spectrum, 768 or 433 megahertz spectrum. If you go to US or probably majority of the European countries, these segments are free. 433 megahertz is available in India for the public use, but then rest of the spectrum, they are not available. So where the devices which can communicate within city limits or something like that, we don't really have that spectrum available. Today, the commercial segment cannot avail the satellite communication devices or any of such M2M devices working on that, because they have to go for a license to the government, which is a very tedious process. So policy at the central level, at the government level, that will be the third very, very important factor when we move from incubation to the maturity. I think these were the three major points that I would like to
Thank
say.
you. Thank you, Mr. Saini. So, sort of in the interest of time, let me sort of summarize just by a couple of statements here. I think we've had a really good discussion on M2M. In the previous talk, Mr. Mohammed Chowdhury, he said a statement that sort of resonates with me. And just to summarize it, I would sort of repeat his statement and saying, we're probably late to the party, right? But the fun has just begun. So there's a lot of stuff, just from what I got from the esteemed the speakers here today, that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's in its nascent stage. So just to answer the panel, from the transition from incubation to maturity, clearly we are not there at the maturity level, which really means it's a huge fertile field. There's good technology out there. We probably have to fine-tune the technology to sort of suit the Indian needs. And I think most of the panelists also pointed out that it's the business model, right? That's what is going to be driving, helping people articulate, why should they be, using this? How will it help better their lives? So I think we had an engaging discussion. If we have time, maybe, I'm not sure if the organizers feel we have time for a couple of questions. If so, we'd be happy to take a couple of questions here. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, panel. I'm Sugandha Seth, System and Finance second year. As discussed, M2M in India can benefit various sectors like healthcare, finance, telematics, etc. But the technology is still in its nascent stage. A few projects have been implemented, but most of them are in pilot basis. So what do you think are the barriers to the diffusion of M2M in India, and how can we overcome them?
Okay, so the question was, what are the barriers and, how do we overcome them? So I sort of invite, yeah, please.
Just a few thoughts. I mean, all need not be, barriers as such, but they could also be opportunities. But we spoke about government influence, government should create policy and so on, but that is not going to solve the problem actually. The key problem which is there outside India, forget about India, is also the lack of standardization or lack of standardization across, what is M2M? Even starting from the definition onwards, there is a lot of things to be done on that aspect. That is one of the key things which will equally applicable outside, but here as well. That is one. Second is there are no real, too many partnerships which are getting built, because M2M is a space where you cannot succeed by yourself. There are so many players involved from the device side, the communication infrastructure side to the platform side, the managing part of it, device management side. So there are so many players involved, and somebody has to actually coordinate and take the push over there and then coordinate the multiple players involved and then get into that. In the other parts of the world, how it is happening is the operators are doing that. They are the ones who are driving it. They are the ones who are creating packages, M2M specific packages. You must be, if you go to a Sprint website and all, you can see the costings and all those stuff. And there are also what is called as MVNOs, you must be aware of that, who are actually resellers of the. So those kind of concepts are yet to get into here as far as I understand from the market. And those are the kind of things which will come when really some of the, I don't want to use that term, but some of the kind of killer applications come into play. So according to me, these are all barriers which can be surmounted, but first thing I think is that of, where is it going to be really making the mass impact out there. You can always create all the stuff, but for example, recently we were working on an RFP for one of the telecom service providers from in India. They want to set up a complete M2M solution. Now, when we look at that RFP, it runs into some 50 pages, and it has anything and everything you can think about in this space, But when you really split it up, are you going to really have all this, are you going to really use all this stuff which you have put in the RFP? No, I mean, I don't think that is, we need to do that at this stage. Also, you can do it in a very phased manner. So first thing we have to define what is the core needs of where is it really going to get into. Then somebody has to coordinate the whole thing. Government is not going to do that for sure, because they are not going. They are not. This is M2M is ultimately a business, and it's a means of for them. So somebody like the operator segment has to do it, and then partnerships have to get created in that. The rest of the things, I think technology exists.
Great. The organizers have given me the time signal, which means that we have to close the session. I'm sure there may be a lot of questions. Our distinguished panel here, obviously have a lot of knowledge. There's a networking break. You have our email addresses. You have our contact information. Please feel free to contact anyone here for further information. Again, thanks for all for a patient hearing. Yeah.
Thank you, dear panelists, for a lively and insightful discussion on M2M and its future. I now invite my colleagues to felicitate our esteemed dignitaries with mementos as a gesture of our appreciation.
We thank all our panel members for joining us and kindly request them to take their seat amongst the audience.